everybody. Whoop, there it is. Hey, welcome everybody. We are here with Victor Stinner to discuss how to, let me see, I lost the title of this of the talk. We're going to talk about how to maintain long-term contributors for Python projects. Take it away, Victor.
So hi everybody, my name is Victor Stinner. I'm working for Red Hat, and I'm here to talk about how to engage Python contributors in the long term, or say differently, tech is easy, but people are complex. I hear many people saying that Python is all about code. Nope, liar. People is about people. And I would like to begin my journey with an event which happened last year for me. It was a burnout. So what does it mean, a burnout? Is that, so last year, I decided suddenly to unsubscribe from 7 different Python mailing lists. I also closed all my pull requests. I used my filters to ignore all notification coming from Python, because I decided to stop like anything related to Python. And this is something really huge for me, because Python was like, I was doing that like all the time, and suddenly I stopped to do anything related to Python. It's like a giant change for me. So I went to the doctor who asked me to stay at home and for 1 month. And I also decided to stop to work on Python for 3 months and a half, which is, I think, the longest period of no activity from my side on Python. To give you an idea of my involvement into Python, this was my typical inbox. So you can see that there are many folders, like the Python buildbots, the bug tracker, the mailing list for core developers, the mentorship mailing list, PyDev, the notification from GitHub. There is also mails for my duties at Red Hat from customers. There is also the security and a mailing list from users. So I was doing many, many different things. And I'm trying to read all my emails at the end of the day. So try to read all emails was more and more difficult for me. So what I understood from the burnout is that maybe it's time for me to step back a little bit from Python, because I'm just doing way too many things, and it's not going to be fine. So to explain you why I'm doing so many things in Python is that I didn't decide one day to take all these responsibilities in Python. It's more than I decided to pick one more responsibility every 6 months, and after a few years, I was just responsible of too many things. And I was working something like 30 hours in average per day, which is way too much for a human. But I will not elaborate or reason for the burnout, because it's also something very personal, and I prefer to not elaborate here. So to come back to the open source, the problem is that I don't scale. Even if I would like to work more hours per day, it's not physically possible. And I also see an increase of the workload in Python. There are more and more things to do in Python in general. And there is a decrease of the new core developers per year. So you can see on the top, there is the number of open issues over the last 7 years. And you can see that it's a straight line, that we are getting more and more open issues. It's just increasing. And to give you an idea of the pull requests, today we are over 1,000 open pull requests, and almost 7,000 open issues. So as I said, the things to do is only increasing. But if you look at the bottom, it's the number of new core developers per year, and you can see that the trend is more than we are getting less. So the workload is increasing, and the new core developers is decreasing, so it's not sustainable in the long term. And to give you an idea of the total number of core developers, we are around 100, but this number includes inactive core developers. If you count only the active core developers, we are closer to 30. And I like this comic that I found on the commitstrip.com website. It shows how people expect that open source is done. So what can we see here? That we have many people. People enjoy to work on their products. You can see in the front that there is a manager saying that, oh, I have assigned a team to blah, 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 which means that even outside this picture, there is even more resources to do the work. There is someone bringing coffee, and we can also expect that they are working during the day. And you can compare that to the reality, and this is how open source applications are really maintained. So here you have a single person working obviously in the middle of the night. There is a cat waiting on the couch for these people to stop working. And he says, maybe just one more ticket before going to bed. So it means that in practice, open source is done by volunteers, and they are doing that in addition to their work. You often hear the sentence, we are all volunteers. And I would like to elaborate the sentence a little bit. Contributors are giving their free time to Python. So what is free time? It means that it can mean evening, weekends, maybe also part of the nights. And you have to understand that a day has a fixed number of hours. And if you remove the time used to sleep, you don't have so much time per day. So each time that you spend of Python, you are taking it from something else. So it means that people who would like to contribute to Python as a contributor have to trade this time between friends and family and Python. And sadly, few employers allow their employee to contribute to Python upstream. But there are few of them. I'm feeling very lucky because I'm working for Red Hat and I'm paid full-time to maintain Python upstream but also downstream, so to fix issues in RHEL on Fedora. From Microsoft, there is Brett Cannon, Barry Warsaw, Eric Snow, Steve Dower, who have one day per week. At Dropbox, Guido van Rossum has more or less 50% of his time on Python. Cuttlesoft, we have Emily Morehouse, who also have 1 day per week. And there are also Neil Schemenauer and Inada Naoki, who have also 1 day per week. But if you put all these people all together, at the end you have almost 3 developers paid full-time. And honestly, that's not a lot of developers who are paid to work on Python, especially when you compare the popularity of Python. It's according to the TIOB index, which is a website which measures the popularity and usage of programming language. Python is just the third most popular language in the world. The first complaint about contributors is that they succeed to produce a pull request, but nobody wants to merge a pull request. And Brett Cannon found a good explanation for this issue. Maybe you can think of a contribution like a puppy. You may view it as this cute, wonderful thing you are giving me, while I'm looking at it as over a decade of feeding, walking on wet bills. To explain you what it means in Python is that when I would like to click on the merge button, if I click on it, I will be responsible for the change code. So if anyone complains, if there is a regression, if it's causing more troubles, I will be the one responsible for these issues. And sometimes I don't want to get these responsibilities because I already have enough of them. We already did some actions in the past to try to work on these scalability issues. For example, we now have a developer guide to explain the workflow, how to create a pull request, where to find the information. We migrated from Mercurial to Git on GitHub, and the purpose is to simplify the creation of your first pull request, but also to simplify the workflow. We now have a CI running on Linux, and another one running on Windows, which is run when you propose a change. And this is really helpful for the core developers who click on the merge button because they can be more confident in the change. But even with all these actions, the core developers are still the bottleneck of the workflow. And to explain it differently, you cannot solve people problem with software. So now let's see the diversity problems. First of all, I commonly hear, oh, there is no complaint about diversity, so there is no diversity issue. And Mayata Vijaya shared a tweet saying that when women speak out about diversity on the community, they get penalized, branded as non-technical. Some women chose not to speak out because of this. We will not be silenced. So there are different issues in a community like Python. It's a set of things that I would call the toxicity of the community. For example, when someone proposes a change in Python, some people, instead of arguing at the technical level, they tend to attack directly the author of the proposal. And this is not a good way to behave on a mailing list. And we really have to stay at the technical level, especially because when you are involved in a Python, in a project like Python, it can be difficult to handle this criticism. And the attacks can be in the public space, but sometimes it continues in the private space, and sometimes it even works. Even only happens in the private space, which means that we are not aware of it, and we cannot take any action. And this is also why some people consider that there is no diversity issue, is that these issues are hidden. Toxicity can also be bullying, misogyny, or racism. To give you a concrete example of the diversity issues, I noticed that some projects decided to get rid of the master and slave terms because they are badly connoted as slavery. And sometimes it's not really appropriate, not the best term that you can use. So what I did is on my computer it's fine. What I did is just to replace the terms only in the documentation and in comments. For example, I replaced master process with parent process. And for the networking, I replaced client on master with client on server. And for the build bot, I replaced build slaves with build bot workers, because build slave was the old term, but in the newer version of build bot, it's build bot workers. But I think that the worst term was client slaves, which has been replaced by helpers. So a journalist became aware of this change and decided to write an article about that on the news website called The Register. And from that point, many other websites decided to discuss this topic. There were articles in Russia Today, Breitbart, Developer.com, Hacker News, Motherbot.vs, Slashdot, 4chan, West China, Twitter, Weibo, and many others. And people commented this issue in English, Russian, Japanese, Chinese, German, French, Czech, and many other languages. And all these articles mention not only my full name, but also my employer. And to give you an idea of the volume of the discussion, just on Slashdot, in 2 days, there were more than 1,200 comments. And to give you an idea of the quality of the discussion on how people like this change, I just chose 2 examples from 4chan, which is a website where people are anonymous. And it says, "Fuck you, Victor Stinner. You are the enemy of Slashdot now. Eat shit. I will probably make a video about this gay shit." And someone else is even more direct. I would like him dead. Okay. Honestly, I didn't expect this violence and this amount of communication and debate. I didn't expect anything because it was only a change in Python. And many people who don't know anything about Python started to discuss this thing. But it's just to give you an example of the diversity issues. Okay, we saw the problems, so let's see the solutions. First of all, as I said, it's not a technical issue, it's a human issue. So you need a different tool. You cannot use a debugger, but what you can do is, for example, psychology. And there is something called the unconscious biases. They are social stereotypes about certain group of people that individuals form outside their mind or outside their own conscious awareness. So it's a little bit tricky to understand it, but the key point is that they are biases and you are not aware of them. It means that even if you are trying to not be racist, to not have stereotypes, you still have stereotypes. And I found a good example to explain you that is that today we have more and more machine learning, and some people decided to apply machine learning to the justice to help to take decision. And a study has been made on the machine learning used to predict future crime. And the study says that the machine learning is biased against black people. So this is just one example of two people who who have been arrested because they possessed drug. And the white person got a score of 3, which is low risk. And the black person got a score of 10, which is high risk. But the machine learning failed because the white person has been arrested 3 more times, and the black person has not been arrested after that. Machine learning, to try to simplify as much as possible, you have data, you have the training, and from that you get prediction. So if the prediction is racist, maybe the issue is coming from your input data. And what I'm trying to say is that thanks to software, we can look at ourselves inside a mirror, and we can see that we are racist. It's part of us. It's just that the software is telling us that we are racist. Something else which is helpful to understand the human relationship and how people behave is called the impostor syndrome. It's a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. So again, it's not really easy to understand what it means. To explain it differently, I would say that you consider that you don't deserve what you get. And I think a good example of the imposter syndrome is that nowadays more and more people are using the social medias, social networks. And the thing is that when you go to these websites, people are only sharing the best of themselves. They try to share photos of their latest amazing travel, of their beautiful children, of their funny pictures of cats. And when you look at all of this, slowly you consider that your life is less interesting than the life of your friends, because you compare your life to the life of people using the social medias. And because of that, some therapists started to say that the social media are making us more depressed. And the thing is that this is one example of the imposter syndrome, because you consider that your life is less interesting. It's just because the social media are designed to make people only share the best of themselves, to only share the positive message. when someone is sick in your family, if you get a very boring day, nobody shares this kind of information because it's boring. And I think that we can also make the parallel with work, because it's common that at work people just show the best of themselves and they try to hide their defects. Just because we want to get a promotion, we want to show that we are very good at what we are doing. But when you compare yourself to your peers, you consider that your work is less valuable just because of that. Now let's talk about the code of conduct. So at the beginning, there was no code of conduct. And it was fine at the beginning because Python was quite small with a few people. But slowly, Python becomes more and more popular, and we started to see some conflicts between people. And we say that maybe we need some kind of agreements of what is a good behavior and what is an inappropriate behavior. So a code of conduct has been created, and first it has been applied on the mailing list to continue with the bug tracker and also the website. Now the code of conduct is also applied to conferences like PyCon US. And last year, the PyCon US even used the service of a company to help to manage code of conduct incidents. Because the worst thing that you want to get in case of a code of conduct incidents is to make the event even worse. So you have to be able to understand what is the issue, how to provide the best action, and to be able to react quickly. So this is not something that we are used to do, and we need some training for that. And by the way, the Python Software Foundation even requires a code of conduct for all conferences called PyCon. And now the discussion is more about how to handle incidents and bans to be blocked on our community. Some people propose to maybe write down some rules, but it's a little bit tricky to agree on that. To come back to the diversity means different things. And for example, you can see that as a diversity of point of view, because in Python, some people care more about the documentation, some other about the reference counting in C, or the backward compatibility, the API, the language consistency, the ability to find the simplest solution, to care about corner cases, performance, security, other Python implementation like PyPy. And if you take a small group of people who are only experts on certain area, maybe Python wouldn't be as good as it is today. We really need this diversity of point of view to make Python as good as it can be. It can also mean the diversity of use cases, because some people are using Python for command line interface, and in that case, what is important is the startup time. And some people are using Python for servers running for multiple days. And here, what is important is more the memory usage, because you don't want to have to reboot your server because it's out of memory. Some people are using the graphical interfaces or machine learning, develop REST servers, games, and many other use cases. To give you a very concrete example of what I said, Naoki Inada has been promoted as a core developer 3 years ago. And he has been selected as a BDFL delegate, so the one to take the decision on a PEP, for the PEP 538, which is a C local cohesion, and my PEP 340, which is a UTF-8 mode. And what we can see is that, in fact, English speakers are just satisfied with ASCII because it's plenty enough to write whatever you want in English. But maybe people from Japan are more used to Unicode issues. So it's something which are really bugging them every day. And for Naoki Inada, it's really important to make sure that Python is working in all cases for any kind of encoding. Okay, now let's see the mentoring. And I would like to begin with the positive actions. So 3 years ago, at this PyCon, Guido van Rossum encouraged women to contact him for mentoring. And he mentored Mayata Vijaya, who became the first woman co-developer in January 2017. And after Mayata, other women have been promoted, Carol Winning, Lisa Roach, Emily Morehouse, and Cheryl Sebala. And you can see that thanks to positive action, we moved from 0 women core developers up to 5 women core developers. So it's still not 50-50, but at least it's growing. And to explain you the mentoring, I would like to come back to the beginning of my journey about the burnout. I say that I don't scare. So the idea of mentoring is that instead of fixing an issue, you have to explain it to how to fix it. Or say differently, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. For example, I mentored Pablo Salgado between January and June 2018, and he became a core developer in June. And usually it's way, way longer to become a core developer. So what I'm trying to say is that thanks to mentoring, it was possible for him to become a core developer, or maybe without mentoring, he would just move to another project or stop contributing to Python. And you have to understand that the development of an open source project like Python is really a matter of trust. To be able to give the keys of Python, to give the commit bit of Python, you really need a very, very high level of confidence in someone. You have to trust the person that you are promoting. Python is also about communities. You have, for example, PyLadies, and their motto is Women Who Love Coding in Python. They are organizing events all around the world. There are events in Australia, Brazil, France, India, Netherlands, Nigeria, Taiwan. Their website is pyladies.com. This is the kind of thing that they do, is to organize events to teach Python to women, but you can see in the audience that it's not only for women, it's also for men. There is trans or code, and their motto is the event that aims to help draw attention to transgender issues through a topic-focused hack day. And for example, the latest event was PyLondonium at London, UK. And their website is transcode.github.io. That's the kind of event that they organize. It is the creation of the Transdots Tech, the previous version of the website. But I think that the most popular community is Django Girls. And their motto is, we inspire women to fall in love with programming. And I will not give you the full list because they made a lot of events, more than 700 events in Cameroon, Finland, France, Ghana, India, Japan, Spain, Switzerland, and many other countries. The website is djangogirl.com. So you can see that all people enjoy programming, so it's very successful. And to conclude, I would say that we are aware that there is an issue, and we are aware that the core developers is a bottleneck of the development of Python. We are aware that Python has a people issue, and we saw that the mentoring is efficient to train contributors of future core developers, and also that the code of conduct reduces the toxicity of a community. According to Guido van Rossum, increasing the core's diversity is a very important goal to ensure the future health of Python. And I like this quote from Brett Cannon and also Naomi Seder, which is, come for the language and stay for the community. So what's next for the diversity and mentoring? We are working on a process to promote people, to make it more, to write down things. We are working on a mentoring guide to explain what is mentoring, how to mentor, what does it mean. And there is also a work in progress contributor tutorial, which is cpython.score.tutorial.readthedoc.io. And that's it. Thank you.
So he'll be taking questions out in the hallway. And give it up again for Victor. Yeah.